Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and I skipped a weird part of that because I just almost did a Best Darn everything, but it's all good. We are here today to review the some call controversial episode, definitely fan-divided episode, an episode that I've been nervous about because of all of the many fan articles and reviews that are already in existence for the episode that we are about to review today. Whatever. But I'm excited to talk about it. And of course, joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid.
Yeah, I did not realize this one was coming up, and I definitely have thoughts on this one. I remember watching this one as a younger person, and I guess we'll have some stuff to talk about here. But for now, I need to throw it back to you, the man, the myth, the drain bugger, Miles.
Hey, by the end of this podcast, I'll be a beautiful butterfly.
There you go.
I remember watching this episode when it first aired, in February 6th of 2000, which we'll go ahead and say this one is called Saddlesore Gallactica, which of course is a parody of Battlestar Galactica, though they did point out on the commentary, which I have a lot to say about today and we'll definitely get into, but they did point out that this was titled like years before the Battlestar Galactica reboot happened. So it was a little bit more of an obscure reference at the time, not nearly as in the mainstream as it is now or was like 6 years later, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. Weird episode to talk about, not because of any other reason, but of what I said earlier. Just there's such a divide in the fandom on this specific episode that there's many people who will even make the claim that this is the worst episode ever, as comic book guy literally ends the episode by saying. There are people that, quote, this is the one where the Simpsons started to die. Some people thought that was the Skinner episode when he wasn't Skinner. But regardless, it's just one of those episodes that is talked about a lot in Simpsons fandom. Notorious episode, which I think is really interesting. And just to kind of give you an idea of, I guess a broader spectrum of appeal. It's not like a lot of people love the episode. Again, it's a divided one. But just to give you some ideas, the first episode of the season, Beyond Blunderdome, was a 7.3. We had several 7.5s. Treehouse of Horror got a 7 of 8. I'm giving the 10-point scale on IMDb, by the way. The Tomako episode's a 7.8. 8 Misbehavin', which is one that I think the two of us had on the lower end of our list so far. Not that we didn't. I don't even
remember what that one was about at this point.
That's where Apu and Manjula have the octopus.
Gotcha. That makes sense with the title.
That one had a 7 out of 10. And
really? Wow.
The next lowest one on the season is a 6.8, which was Faith Off, which we just talked about a couple episodes ago. This episode has a 6.4 out of 10, and that just really feels low to me. I don't know. I guess we're gonna dive into it pretty deeply here in just a moment, but it feels like it gets an unfair amount of flack to me, or guff. I'll go with. I mean, shit.
I want to say I actually like the horse plot of this one better than the horse plot of the first horse the Simpsons had. It's all the other stuff that happens where I'm like, this didn't age well, or this was never really a good route to go on this one particular.
I will say the majority of the controversy comes from the third act. A lot of people really have opinions about that third act, but let me talk a little bit about the commentary real quick, because they're going to be coming into play here a couple of times. This had a much fuller commentary room than a lot of the previous episodes had. However, not a ton of the people that I would consider to be the mainstays or the main reoccurring people that commonly do commentaries. The writer of this episode, Tim Long, was present, as was the director, Lance Kramer. We also had Tom Martin, George Meyer, Mike Scully, Ian Maxtone Graham, and Matt Groening. along with Matt Selman. So there was some like fairly regulars in there, but then a couple of lesser known people so far in the commentary world, at least. But the really interesting thing about this commentary and where a lot of the fun came was Matt Groening realized that at the time of this commentary, he had not seen this episode. This commentary track was his first watch. So we literally got to see his live reactions to the show in the commentary form, though in a very crowded room. And I just thought that was interesting. He said it was never anything like personal. It's not that he didn't want to see this episode. He just remembers distinctly, like, it just so happened he had a very busy week. He was traveling. He wasn't available to go to the table read, which he often will be there for. He wasn't able to get to, basically he just missed everything due to scheduling. So it was interesting to kind of see his reaction to this very controversial episode early on. Again, the recordings of these probably happened in sometime around 2005 or so, and I will say it was very funny to me. Dated joke, I'll admit, but it was just the fact that all of the people in the room had the same exact timing. It cracked me up. But Matt Groening basically early on says, so I have a very peculiar confession to make right now. And without skipping a beat, literally every single person in the room was like, gay? And again, the timing of it was impeccable. The timing of the joke, maybe not so hot now, but the timing of the people in this room with their comedy, it just went to show you that it was very funny. Matt giggled and said, yes, that, but also that I haven't seen this episode yet. So that was kind of how that was introduced.
He fired back with even better timing after they said that.
Exactly. We open up this episode with a chalkboard gag that says substitute teachers are not scabs, and a couch gag that was really fun but very weird. The Simpsons come in all wearing like karate gi, and they just like chop the couch into like little pieces, and then with a very like comical like wah, Homer pulls out a television remote and turns on the TV.
This is probably my favorite couch gag in a while. Like I thought it was fun.
It was
maybe
fun.
Maybe it's the Karate Kid in us, but like I just enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So again, the early part of this episode, Act 1 that we're about to dive into, not a lot of controversy. There is some aspects of people complaining that this is one of the episodes where we see early jerk-ass Homer. I don't know how I feel about that. That seems strong. I guess we'll go through each thing that he did here today and decide if it was really worth that name at the time. But I know jerk-ass Homer is essentially like a trending thing that will start to carry through the teen years of The Simpsons. That a lot of people.
It's common at that age, Miles.
What's that? It's common. Yeah, it is. The Simpsons are just at an age where they think they know everything better than their parents, aka the writers do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's what's happened. It's classic. Give them a few years, everything will be fine.
They were cute when they were like 4 to 8, but after that,
they're still fine when they're sleeping. But the rest of the time, they're awful, awful show.
That's a good metaphor. We should keep that in mind for the future.
Yeah, we should just start recording us taking a nap on screen. Our viewership would probably rock it. Be like, oh, these guys are good. Finally, I could.
Oh,
this
look
is
what he just
watchable.
did. He turned over. That's at the 3-hour mark.
So we open up with Lisa in band practice. They're doing Stars and Stripes Forever, at which the band director, Mr. Largo, is like pretty into, even though the band is questionable at best, minus Lisa. I mean, hell, Ralph doesn't even realize that they're in band. He thought it was art.
Band?
He's like drawing on the drum.
It kind of looked like the Itchy and Scratchy replacements, the like Russian ones almost to me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember what they're named off the top of my head. Terrible. But Lisa starts the episode by saying, I hate to be a killjoy, which is hilarious in itself. But do you really think that we can win playing Stars and Stripes Forever? It's so beginner band, and we're advanced beginner band.
This is band?
That's Ralph all the way. Largo has this like real obsession with this composer, I guess, Salsa. Because at first they're like, "Oh, what do you mean? You want to play another rousing Salsa march that you'd like to play?" And then when Lisa's like, "I was thinking we could try something even crazier," he's like, "Oh, you mean something just arranged by Salsa?"
Is it Salsa or Sousa?
Honestly, I have no idea. I just made a choice and went
You
with
just
it.
hurt my brain now, and I can't remember anything anymore. But yeah, it's honestly, that was funny to me. I like that.
I also really like this next sequence where they start making suggestions, and Lisa pushes for something bolder. Milhouse is like, "How about Camptown races?" But Nelson, like his response, I can't. It's like that's like our grandpa's music or something. How about Little Brown Jug? Largo's pissed and upset at Lisa for introducing all this devil music to the class.
Oh my gosh.
I do like his line though. He basically said something along the lines of like, "Oh, what does it matter? They always end up sounding the same anyway."
Yeah, which is true.
There's also a great little stab at the county fair because he was like excited to be like, "But you guys, we're like in the competition at the county fair," and they're like, and he's like, "I mean state fair, yay!" The sign at the state fair where we cut to with the Simpsons family has a sign that says that veterans enter free. And so Homer introduces himself as a Vietnam veteran, which I guess if you are opposed to the whole concept of stolen valor, this might be in the jerk ass Homer section anyway.
Vietnam veteran.
And you have a military ID?
ID? Damn, Charlie didn't ask for ID when I fought at La Choi and Chung Kong. Saw my best friend's head explode at Margaret Cho.
Marge is just like, "Homer, give the man 50 cents.
Why should I? Did my country give me a parade? No, man. They spat at me and
the gatekeeper's just like, "Just go in already." Like, waves him on in.
Thank you. This closes the saddest chapter in American history. Over 50 cents.
All right. I think it's funny. I don't know. Maybe if you're like way pro-military or whatever, which I'm not. So maybe that's why this doesn't qualify as jerk-ass Homer to me.
Oof. I mean, it was funny, but I definitely was like, oh, man, they really went for it there, didn't they?
Yeah, made me laugh. That's all that counts. Comedy. Boom. Inside we see Marge is immediately impressed by all the things you'd expect Marge to be impressed by at the like state fair type of thing. Like Marge is the type of person that immediately goes to the booth that just has like all of the new like cleaning products on display and like probably a jerky stand and for sure some hot tubs in the corner.
Well, I mean, the best part though is like the first thing she walks up to is the guy selling rubber band or trying to get over the rubber band popping you in the eye off of
like they're like literally just like clear goggles that he puts on and then purposely pops himself in the eye to demonstrate how well they work. Yeah, he like falls into like the sign or whatever. But by far the best part was we pan out to the crowd and we see Lenny wearing an eye patch.
It's always Lenny's eye. I don't get that.
It's too late for Lenny.
I like how the guy's like, "Have you ever opened the morning paper only to have the rubber band fly off and hit you right in the eye?" And Mark
never, but it's my number one concern. Yeah. Well, with the Omnigog system, those worries are a thing of the past. But yeah, that whole bit was very well done. And again, so far in this episode, you're thinking like, where is the controversy? I'm having fun. Where the Simpsons are at the state fair and Lisa's in a band competition. That feels right.
It started off pretty well.
We see them go over to them being the Simpsons go over to the main stage where Bart is pointing and being like, "Who are those very old and pleasant men?"
It's BTO. They're Canada's answer to ELP. Their big hit was TCB. That's how we talked in the 70s. We didn't have a moment to spare.
Yeah, I like the shortening of everything. So this is in fact the band, which let me pull it up. Bachman Turner Overdrive, who did have the hit song
"Taking Care of Business."
Yep, 100%. I thought this was very fun. They talked about them coming in the studio. I think it was Mike Scully specifically mentioned that This was really fun in that like they were really cool guys and like they gave them like a lot of free stuff, some free albums. They joked that they gave them the album that had "Taking Care of Business" and their Christmas hit "Taking Care of Christmas," which is just fun to think about. But kind of a sad note on this one. Apparently, at the time of this episode being recorded, and I don't know how it ended up, but at least at the time of this episode being recorded, the Bachman-Turner Overdrive was actually split up. So while everybody was pleasant and had fun with this, they did not come in and record together. They came in separately and recorded their lines as opposed to coming in as a complete band.
I mean, everyone's too busy to come in together in the 70s.
That's just how it was. Yeah. Coming together. How do we turn that into 3 letters?
We got an ETA in 3 days. Oh, wait. I was just trying to use shorthand again.
Got it. G to G. BRB. On AFK. With the show. Yeah. So we see that Homer, this, I guess, is another example that we could talk about, where is Homer a jerk ass here in this moment? But I feel like Homer is the voice of every concert goer that goes to one of these things, because the Bachman-Turner Overdrive are definitely a band that you would consider to be a one-hit wonder. I'm not trying to throw shade. They are a far more successful band than any of the ones that I have been a part of. But
they have 2 hits. They have 2 hits.
Taking Care of Christmas, or is there another one as well?
Taking Care of Business and You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet.
You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. Bow, bow. Okay, there, 2-hit wonder. Regardless, though, every time you go to a concert like this, everybody just wants to hear the song, right?
Right.
It actually reminds me, I want to say it was our like frequent guest Ruth Banks, but I could be wrong and I'm making that up. But somebody and I just had a conversation and we were talking about the band Bowling for Soup playing a show back in the day. And like basically it was somebody was essentially being the Homer in this situation. Like people are like screaming, I'm like, just play 1985 already or something like that. And like the lead singer of Bowling for Soup literally like set aside is like, hey man, when you're a band that has one big hit, you play it last, jackass.
That's a great response.
Yeah, honestly, I like Bowling for Soup, and it made me like them even more on that one.
Yeah, and I haven't heard that name in forever. We're old, Miles.
It's
but
true.
I feel like Homer did this in a recent episode too, where like they're out somewhere and he was yelling at them to do something else. So like I don't feel like this is a jerk ass Homer moment at all. Like I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny too. Basically, too, just to clarify, because I think we skimmed it a little bit. The band starts by saying, like, yeah, we're definitely going to play our hits, like Taking Care of Business. But first, we're going to play something off the new album. And Homer's like, enough talking. No new stuff. Play Taking Care of Business.
I feel like it was funny, especially because, like, the way the band member interacted with Homer is what also made it really funny, too, where it's like me as somebody watching and listening, I'm like, it seems like they had fun recording the scene. So that made me enjoy it more. Like, I don't know. I like it when the guest star does a good job of voice acting where it sounds like they're really, really into it. It just makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah. I also like when they like fully embrace the joke. Like
exactly.
There's times where you can tell like people are like, I don't want to make that joke about myself or whatever. Like Trump on SNL. Like that wasn't good because he refused to make fun of himself. And it was Trump. But regardless, like if you can't make fun of yourself, it's not going to turn out as well because that's pretty much what the Simpsons do.
I want to be on the show, but I don't want to have any jokes.
Right? Yeah. And actually, later, you're right. Later, they were actually playing the song "You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet," and Homer, like as soon as they end, starts screaming, "Play You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet!" Like
we just played it.
And that's when the band actually announces that they're done, but don't worry, there's more great entertainment coming because we have the state elementary band competition about to begin, to which Homer like literally starts like, yeah, he's like upset by it. And Marge is like, Homer, that's your daughter's competition.
I stand by my disappointed groan.
And it turns out that Lisa got her way because the band comes out and plays a remarkably good, by the rehearsal that we saw, a version of the song "Living in America," and it's highlighted by Lisa's saxophone like solo, which there's kind of an awkward joke here. They point out on the commentary where Bart's like, "Wow, my sister's a sax machine."
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
Did Simpsons accidentally start stepsister like sibling porn on
Oh
Pornhub?
no!
I'm always wondering how that becomes such a popular thing, and it climbs the charts. Simpsons did it.
Yeah, it's literally.
We see that the comptroller is actually emceeing the competition, but is it the real comptroller?
Yeah, real, right? I was wondering, is Otto underneath that? It sounds like more Otto's thing. He didn't want to pay the 50 cents.
Yeah, exactly. He probably didn't have it. That's true. The comptroller actually comes out and is basically like, wow, that band rocked. They blew everyone away. I'm pretty sure they're going to win, assuming there aren't any more bands to play. Oh, wait, there is, in fact, one more band to play, and it's Ogdenville Elementary School that comes out, and lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, they play the song that Mr. Largo had originally wanted to play, Stars and Stripes Forever.
And Lisa's basically like, yeah, we got this in the bag.
That's so elementary. Yeah, exactly. But Lisa does have a point in this episode, though it is a kind of a petty one, but Ogdenville straight up cheats. They pull out glow sticks at the end of their performance in red, white, and blue colors shaped like the flag. They're able to kind of wave their hands in a manner that makes it look like the Old Glory is rippling in the wind, if you will. And Lisa is immediately like, visual aids are against the rules.
Here's the thing. I can speak from hurtful experience on something similar to this.
Okay. I'm excited to hear your glow stick story.
Lisa is correct here, and Ogdenville should be disqualified from winning. It doesn't matter if they're the best performance in the group, which they weren't, but they should not get any kind of credit for this. And that's against the school, that's against the fair and the board and the rules. And you may say, Richie, you sound like you are hurt in this story. And Richie is hurt in the story. In high school, I was at a high school that had very good reputation of putting on great theatrical performances in the one-act competitions. And it's very similar to band in that, you're doing all these states, all these schools are across the state are competing to have the best shows in a one-act play. And
you're talking about like UIL competition.
Yes. Yeah. And most of the schools do like the same play. So it ends up being a Stars and Stripes Forever. Where you're like, oh my God, I've seen this play. You have to sit there and watch the other ones after you perform. And you're like, I've seen this play by like 8 different schools. Like, I know this whole plot. This is ridiculous. And this
everybody does the same 3 things, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. This one year in my junior year, we picked a play that had never been done before in that thing. It was about the 100 Years' War. I think it was 100 Years' War. It was Mother Teresa and her children. That's what it was called. And we had everybody in the perfect role. Everybody was knocking it out of the park. I was literally getting like punched up, and I was like a peasant on stage getting dragged across the stage. It was like horrifying, like all this dark stuff. And every competition we were going to, it was like we were knocking it out of the park every single time. We had a portable light system. And the way the portable light system worked that we didn't know at the
tell
time,
us where the light and sound technician hurt you, Richie.
Well, when the light unplugs, it had a safety feature where it would stay on for like a few seconds or like 15, 20 seconds or a minute as a safety feature in case it came unplugged. Well,
safety to the lights of the show, not to like the people running the show. Like that more of like a fail safe for the production.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you could plug it back in and basically the light would stay on at that point and never turn off. Well, you have to strike your set after you're done with your show, but they actually time you on your setup of your set and they time you at the end of your set. And you had like something like 3 minutes to clean up your set at the end of the play. So at the end of our play, somebody, they tripped over the cord or something, or they just like yanked it out and the light didn't turn off and nobody caught it. So there was the judges were sitting in the audience, and the story goes from what we heard is one of the wives of the judges went, hey, that light didn't turn off. You guys need to count that against them. And it made us go over our striking time by like a few seconds. So when it came to the award time, like everyone was going up there going like other schools were coming up to us being like, oh my God, you guys were like by far the best show there. And we were a couple spots away from going to like the state finals, basically, where you go to Austin and perform. And we ended up getting disqualified from like a 15-second lights being on after the strike time. And it was because one of the judges' wives sat there complaining about it. And like, even the judges were like, you guys would have advanced. Like, you guys had a really great show. Everyone did a really great job. And it was disheartening. Like, everybody was very upset. Like, felt it was like a stupid little technicality, but the rules be the rules, man. If it doesn't happen, then you got to be disqualified. That long story was all just for that.
So down with Ogdenville was the whole reason for that rant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, literally everybody else in Springfield is like chanting like Ogdenville, including the judges. So it's not looking good. Not looking good at all. And sure enough, they win handedly. They get a winner's plaque. And Lisa is immediately bitter, like super mad. Even to the point, like, Marge says something about the fair, the state fair, and Lisa's like, "You mean the state unfair?" Yes, Lisa, that's exactly what I mean. Obviously, oh my god, I love the scene too, where like she sees one of the other band members with his trophy or plaque, and he's like, "Enjoy your cheater's plaque," and then right behind her, you pan out and see the comptroller's there, and is like, "Well, I was gonna give you this giant trophy for good sportsmanship, but now I'm just gonna go and cry."
And it's like a huge trophy.
It's like the biggest. It's like the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, the winning school just gets a plaque, but the actual like, that's great. They should do that more often.
Another beautiful moment. I can't believe those idiot judges were impressed by glowing plastic tubes, and we scan out to see that Homer is wearing a bunch of glow sticks.
Yeah,
look, Lisa, it glows, and he's like waving them in front of his face.
Looks like he'd be pretty good at a rave too.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Another just stupid but very funny bit here is Homer comes back and it's like his shirt is clearly like orange and crispy. He's like, "See, Marge, I told you they could deep fry my shirt."
I didn't say they couldn't. I said you shouldn't.
Oh, man. And this is where we kind of transition to what this episode is actually going to be about. To be fair, this whole band thing is going to resonate as like the underlying B plot through most of the story. But we see the Simpsons approach a spectacle of an event where there's an announcer trying to get people to come up, a barker, if you will. And basically there is the incredible diving horse. And you see this very tiny swimming pool, this very, very high dive, and this very terrified horse. And I will say this scene, like, I was like, oh, I don't like watching this. Like, this was like of the controversial part. Yeah, I legit like am fully empathizing with this terrified horse who clearly doesn't want to be up on this like height. He definitely doesn't want to dive off of the board, which he doesn't actually dive off of. They literally just like start tilting it until he has no choice. And they at one point, like the horse is like comically like teetering on the edge of the board before sliding down and falling into this pool where he's relieved that he's okay, but you can tell like heart's a pounding. And then the worst part is the barker's immediately like, "Oh, it looks like he wants to go again," and they start harnessing him back up to the top.
And he looks terrified again, and then he immediately just looks once he's up in the air, he just looks defeated.
But fortunately, Springfield's finest are here to take care of business. Wiggum shows up and is like, "Wow, this is clearly a case of animal cruelty. Do you have a permit for that?"
"No problem, sir. It's in my car."
And of course, we see the man hop in his car and drive away. Lou is...
You gotta stop being so trusting, Chief.
Clearly not his first time, but Wiggum's response here is wonderful. You think he's gonna like kind of do something where he's like talking about how he'd rather like let 1,000 innocent people get away there just to catch a criminal, but instead he says, "I'd rather let 1,000 guilty men go free than chase after them." All right, show's over, folks. I'm afraid this horse is going to the dog food factory.
Good luck getting a horse to eat dog food.
But Bart, unlike Homer, realizes what that really means. You can't do that to Duncan. It's not his fault that his owner is a sleaze.
Look, I just want the horse to have a good home or be food. You want to take him? Fine with me.
Then this is where we see Marge ask the question that we're all wondering. And then Comic Book Guy immediately comes in with the explanation we were all hoping for.
Should the Simpsons get a horse?
Excuse me, I believe this family already had a horse, and the expense forced Homer to work at the Quickie Mart with hilarious consequences.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No! And of course, I think they didn't actually talk about this as much as I was hoping they would on the commentary, but I absolutely believe that Comic Book Guy's lines in this entire episode are literally just written as like actual complaints or in the idea of what they expect the complaints are going to be about this episode.
Yeah, maybe this is the first time they thought they ran out of ideas.
Yeah, maybe. We see that the Simpsons do, in fact, take the horse by strapping it to the top of their car. And once again, we get a very horrified look from Duncan the horse as Homer yells out, "Tunnel!" And Duncan just has to duck to not be decapitated, not end up like the horse in The Godfather.
Ooh.
That is actually the end of our first act, and we open up Act 2 with Marge addressing the point that Comic Book Guy brought up in the previous scene, that owning a horse is really expensive. We know this because when they did it before, Homer had to have a second job that almost killed him.
Yeah, it's okay though. They're going to find ways around that this time. I think they'll be fine. They can have a horse.
I really like that, like when Homer's like, it'll be all right. You know, you're complaining about the one thing I got and you got all this other stuff. And Marge is like, well, nothing I bought has to be fed, except for the mop.
Yeah. I like that.
What does she throw? She throws like a handful of some sort of food into the mop and the mop like starts eating it. It's really creepy, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't remember. It's like eggs or whatever's on the table. It's like meat of some sort.
Yeah, and it just starts absorbing it, but like it's moving very eerily.
Yep.
It's like a Goosebumps book or something.
Yeah, actually, it does have Goosebumps vibes. You're absolutely right. We see the return of an iconic Simpsons prop in the hat that Homer wears, because it is, in fact, the same hat that he got from the NFL legendary coach that I'm blanking on right now.
Tom Landry.
Tom Landry. There you go.
That
was given to him back in the episode You Only Move Twice.
No, it wasn't given to him. He bought that with his hard-earned money.
I'm sorry, you're right. He was given the Denver Broncos. He bought the hat. My mistake.
Yeah. But I thought that was Landry's hat. I wasn't sure, but like I was very happy to see it because I don't remember noticing that in the past.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that I honestly think I remember Homer wearing it more than he actually does, just because the few scenes he has in it are very like iconic and well drawn, if that makes sense. So in my mind, he's just like always wearing it, but he really never does. It only happens in a handful of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem, though, anytime they're doing anything that has to do with football, he will pull it out.
Makes sense.
And in this case, they are referring to football because they actually put like one of those old school like leather cap helmets on the horse, and they're teaching it to kick field goals. And surprisingly, he's really good at it. The horse, I mean. But unfortunately, as soon as Homer, he decided to teach. 10. Yeah, that's right. He decided to teach the horse to kick field goals and then check if that's in the NFL rule book, which, of course, it is against the rules to be a horse in the NFL.
Don't.
Bart points out the fact that he was a diving horse, so maybe he could dive for pearls. And this sets off one of the first moments in the episodes where I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck are these writers on right now? In the sense of like, I want some of that.
This is where Homer daydreams that he's laying on a bed of all these pearls and he's got
everything is pearls.
Butler pearl, and he's eating
the floor is pearls. He's Pearl-O's, the cereal.
Oh,
a hand. He looks at himself after chewing on the pearls. He looks at himself in a mirror made of pearls and sees that he has these like broken teeth. But he like starts going into like a like giggle fit, like someone who just hit a bong for the first time. Might like literally like rolling over, like
he's on the floor giggling. And that part's kind of comical, but I like that they just took a shot at Air Bud though with the whole Duncan thing. I feel like the NBA let Air Bud play in one of their little leagues because there wasn't a rule saying dogs couldn't play basketball, so the NFL just got on their high horse, pun intended, and made sure that horses could not play football. So like I enjoyed the Airbud defense did not work in the case of the Simpsons.
Interesting. I didn't even correlate those two things, but that's extra fun. This whole like drug infused Pearl fantasy was a scene that more or less led us to the point that, you know, Duncan's pretty fast, so maybe he could be a racehorse. And then Homer, I think, starts giggling about that, if I'm not mistaken.
Racehorse, eh?
We cut back to Lisa, who is still fuming over this unfair band issue, which makes me think that Richie is probably still, like, to this day, fighting the UIL. Like,
we would have won it all, damn it.
We need to get everybody that was at the state competition back together now as adults and go back and recompete to get the rightful winner. That sounds like a bad, like, Netflix movie.
We went... Some of us actually went to Austin to watch the state finals on a trip that year, and there wasn't anything that was better than us there. I'm not just like
in the bag.
I'm not tooting my own horn because I'm pretty like hard on myself and anything that I care about. But like it's everybody else was doing the same freaking 3 plays. Like there was nothing special outside of ours. You could take that to the bank. And I'm sorry if you were another school in that particular year in UIL, but you suck.
No, you suck if you were from another school in that particular year of UIL. Fuck you.
There's a bunch of suck.
I'll say what Richie's. I'll say what Richie's
I gotta
thinking.
go. My damn wiener listeners are listening.
So we get back to Lisa, who's still fuming, and she's actually writing a letter to President Bill Clinton at the time, basically saying how unfair it was and how, you know, as a fellow saxophone player, you know, she's sure he's going to understand. Marge is just like, Lisa, learn to let things go. And I think she shows off a fire extinguisher that was endorsed by both Linda Carter, aka Wonder Woman, and George Foreman.
Yeah, she sets a curtain in the kitchen on fire and makes us like,
just to show, yeah, look how great this extinguisher is. And no, I did not pronounce Gal Gadot's name. Linda Carter was Wonder Woman first for those of you listening.
But then Marge is like, I wonder what it'd be like if the two of them had a child together. And then she starts rolling on the floor, giggling like Homer did. Just
like Homer did previously. Yeah. So it's clearly like there's a gas leak in the Simpsons home. We cut back to Bart and Homer, who are preparing Duncan for racing. Bart thinks they should get a professional trainer, but Homer's like, son, I learned everything I need to know from the Horse Whisperer. Step 1, seduce a lonely housewife. And he turns up to Maude Flanders, who's looking down, but he's like, ma'am, and tilts his hat at her, and she immediately like closes the blinds.
This felt a lot darker knowing what the next episode is.
One episode away is weird, like, right?
Yeah. Really, really played weird.
It did, honestly. And again, there's no way they could have possibly known that at the time that this was written and aired. But she dies next week, folks. Spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
But
the actual horse whispering. When the race starts, run really fast.
We cut to the Springfield grounds where the horse races take place, where we see Mo is on the ground, like anxiously, like stumbling around for a winning ticket. Like he's going through the trash, basically, hoping like one of these has got to be a winner.
When I was a kid, I would pick all those up. I thought, what if somebody accidentally like a lotto ticket that never fell?
But it felt a lot more like Mo needed it to eat than you probably just needed it for video game money as a kid.
Oh, I wanted to go play that Street Fighter 2 arcade. Yeah.
We see a couple of the jockeys run by. There's a really funny joke.
Oh, you skipped the part where Mo found like his woman.
I did. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, he comes across a woman doing the same thing that he was doing.
And you think Mo's found the one. You think she's gonna say something where she's like, "Ew, you're disgusting," but she doesn't. But Mo, his heart is beating so fast, like the Grinch.
It's like the cartoon thing you see. Yeah.
And he has to leave for medical attention, and you'll never see this woman again.
I do like that when we see like the literal cartoon heart bouncing out. I want to say it's like Tex Avery style. I think he's the person that first did that, if I'm not mistaken, in animation history. I very much could be, but that old school thing where you'd see like a wolf looking at like a woman and his heart would literally start bouncing out of his chest. But this was Mo. But instead of it like just being normal, Mo is like, wow, this looks like a serious medical condition. I should go go to a hospital or whatever.
Oh. Faster to drive you, Mo.
Yeah, true. You missed an opportunity there. There's a very quick joke, but I thought it was silly and it made me laugh. You see two jockeys running by, and one of them's like, just once, I'd like to ride clockwise.
Really? I thought I was the only one.
They have a moment.
Do the NASCAR drivers do the same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Homer has been, training. Bart has been jockeying. They are ready for their first race, but Bart's jockey costume is literally his crusty pajamas, which I thought was just a fun visual. Homer gives Duncan a taco and has a promise of another one when he wins. But first, some last-minute preparations.
Hey, where do you get those metal dealies for his feet?
You mean horseshoes?
Hey, what's with the attitude? I just wanted some dealies.
You really think that horse can run 1.5 miles?
He ran all the way here.
Good warm-up, Homer. With no horseshoes, mind you.
I've talked about this before, and I think you might have challenged me on it, but no one ever believes me. But we talk about it in history class. People have this vision of people riding like horseback the whole way across the country, but like horses can't go that far in a day. Like it's something like 40 miles on a good day. So like you got to let the horses rest. So
yeah, that's like the cattle trails and whatnot. I mean,
exactly.
Like they would have there are long days of riding, like, but you can't run horses forever. Like, and also the horseshoes are an important part of that journey because otherwise you're gonna wear down their like actual feet way fast on those rocks. Yeah.
So yeah, it's even just like going from home to the horse race track, depending how far it was, probably wore the dang horse out, Homer.
Yeah, again, shoeless running from the from the house to the track, plus the race to follow. Good times. We do see that Homer is excited to check the odds. The odds are fantastic. That's true. Homer's disappointed that the odds are 5 million to 1. If you ever get the odds of 5 million to 1 on anything, put $1 on it. Just do it. Just do it. Like, it's a no-brainer. You spend $1 on stupider things, and if it pulls off, you're a rich person.
I put 20 on it.
Matt, do you really? I mean, I don't know. I don't need $100 million. I'll be fine with my 5. And I'm not really in a place where I can just lose 20 commonly. So
I have expensive taste, Miles.
That's fair. Another great bit here. Homer is like talking off to the sidelines while Bart's getting ready to start the race. That horse better win or we're taking a trip to the glue factory and he won't get to come.
Yeah, that's a great tour, but you can't see it all in a day.
And Carl's like, quick, be quiet. Is that? I believe that's a callback to the fact that the Simpsons have in fact been to the glue factory before. Is that where they got their first horse? Is that correct? Am I making this up?
Glue factory. I don't know. That was. Like
I feel like the Simpsons have definitely been to the glue factory before. Like surely.
I think you're thinking of like a Troy McClure video where they showed the glue factory. I don't know.
Maybe I could have sworn that was a callback.
We've been doing this for like 5 years. Like this, it starts happening after a while.
I just Googled it, and there's no references to Glue Factory other than this one. It keeps popping up. So, all right, I guess I'm just making up things. That felt like a funny callback joke to me. I don't know. I'm clearly wrong. But we get the announcer.
Drugs, yeah.
The announcer is calling the race, and we're hearing some of the other horses for the first time. It's chock full of drugs, followed closely by Stalker with old Levi's fading fast. So corny, but so funny. And then, unfortunately, though, we cut all the way back to the beginning where the gates that start the race, and Bart is still sitting there with Duncan, not having moved at all.
He looks nervous.
Yeah, he does. He looks scared. He looks nervous. He looks intimidated. But Bart's kind of like giving him some TLC and saying, hey, man, like, I love you regardless of what happens, but let's just go and have some fun running or whatever. And
Master Bart.
And suddenly this horse, Yeah, they just switch places. The horse gets on Bart's shoulder, and Bart starts running around the track.
That's another
how it
weird Pornhub search.
So Bart, Duncan and Bart like take off out of the gate, and the announcer's like, "I've never seen a horse run with so much passion. The excitement, the basically the like effort that this horse is putting in is blowing the announcer away. Too bad the race is already over."
That's one of those things too, where
they're like crowning the winner.
Yeah, this happens in a lot of like sports movies or race movies where that'll happen, and then that character will win or finish like in the top 3, and you're like, if they can burst that fast for that amount of time, how come any other race is close?
Yeah,
or like in a race movie, like the person's catching up, and they'll catch up, but then they're going like at the same speed back and forth side by side, and it's like, how did you catch them in the first place? How did you shift into another gear when you're already on gear 5 or whatever the hell it is?
You're already. Oh god, this car has a secret gear I didn't know about till just now.
That always happens.
Yeah, 100%. I'm somebody that will defend the Fast and the Furious movies. I think they're fucking fun and kind of just crazy but enjoyable. But there's so many moments in those where it's just like, oh, I'll just shoot a NOS bottle and that's going to make my car go fast in the straight line really, really suddenly or something like that. Ridiculous, stupid stuff, but it works. I like it.
We don't go to the movies to watch people live normal lives, as my dad used to say.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great quote. That though brought us to the end of our second act with Bart losing, and we open up our third act, which I'll point out again, a pretty quick first 2 acts on this one. We're only at the 12-minute mark, so they left a lot of room to work with in the third act once again. And we start with Homer trying to cheer up Bart. Son, I thought you looked damn good out there. But then he notices the Duncan's number. Oh, wait, you were number 5? You stink! Damn good.
But that's when Bart brings up that like Duncan's fast. It's just he was intimidated by the other horses, and that's their problem right there. I mean, he shot out of the gates too late, but still fast.
And that's when Bart realizes that he just needs an attitude adjustment. He needs to meet up with John Cena for a bit and get a new badass attitude. He vows that when he gets done training Duncan, the other horses will be shaking in their horse dealies.
That was Bart. That was Homer.
Homer. Yeah. Yep.
Back to the B plots.
Still, Lisa has not given up on this outrage of a sham of a band competition.
Oh,
she's now on the phone. Hello, I'd like to speak with President Clinton, please. I wrote to him and he never wrote back. No, I don't want to speak with Al Gore. For what it's worth, though, Lisa would absolutely love to speak with Al Gore. Like, that's a funny joke, but, like, in reality, Al Gore would probably be in, like, the top 10 list of people Lisa would like to talk with.
Probably, yeah.
Especially at this time. Marge is, like, getting even more annoyed with Lisa. She actually hangs up the phone on her, which is kind of aggressive for Marge, really. But she's like, why don't you channel that energy to something more useful? Unfortunately, that's immediately cut off by Duncan, who now has like a much wilder look, and he's going by Furious D now. And this entire thing, the hat, the hair color, the nose ring, all of it. It kind of looks
like he got shot in the face with the makeup gun almost.
He does, yeah, 100%. Like Marge's makeup gun or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this entire look is absolutely parodying Dennis Rodman, who is a very loud personality, famous NBA player, really, really great defender and rebounder, and known for his intimidating attitude on the court and his kind of rebellious and sometimes attention-grabbing antics on the outside of the court, like in his regular life.
It's a good person to model the horse after.
Well, if you're trying to go for an intimidating attitude, yeah, actually, it kind of is. Yeah. I mean, you could make an argument. I think that people would probably have a lot of opinions about Dennis Rodman, but if you look about like what his attitude and his presence and his aggression level did on the basketball court. I mean, he was a huge part of that 90s Bulls dynasty.
At least the second half of it. But yeah, that's a lot better than if you would have done it the John Cena way, like you said earlier, Miles. Because let's just be honest, nobody would have seen that.
That's fair. I just said he needed an attitude adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Homer introduces him to his wife and daughter. Ladies, say hello to
Furious D.
It's written on the side of the horse. Bart's like, he's the bad boy of racing. He's got attitude and batitude. So show him some latitude and you'll win his gratitude. Only in America. He's definitely doing some Don King right there.
Ew, you used my bracelet for a nose ring?
And this is a really weird scene break, and they even made fun of it on the commentary themselves of like, oh yeah, that works for the way to get out of that scene quickly. But Homer like suddenly becomes like very dramatic and is just like, possessions are fleeting.
That's how Homer gets away with so much stuff all the time.
We cut back to the Springfield Downs where we now see Furious D making his debut at the racetrack. Even walking in, the appearance of the horse is upsetting the normies because we see an aristocratic couple. Like one of them's got a monocle and they're just very fancy, but they're like offended by their appearance. And Bart turns around and is just like, get bent. And that causes the guy to drop his monocle into his tea.
Oh my goodness, that's the 8th monocle I've broken this month, or whatever he said.
I really stop being so horrified. Yeah. Oh man. We also see that inside Marge is getting into a little bit of gambling. Well, to be fair, at this point, she's only trying to vote for the horse that she likes. So
I just vote that all the horses will have a fun time.
And the clerk who's like the guy that we see so often, he's just like the impatient clerk guy. But he basically points across the way and there's a window that says Wuss Bets.
It had like Skinner and Mole Man and had one other person too. Was it Flanders? I don't remember who else was in the line.
Yeah, it's a great bit, and it's setting up the fact that Marge is getting back into gambling, which we know
into gaggling.
Into gaggling. Ooh, it's different. We really got to go off the Pornhub. We see Furious D, come back up to the starting gate, and the other jockeys are like mocking him essentially. But Bart is he's ready. He feels that him and this new attitude that Furious D, he's kind of like whispering into him, like, remember, you've got a new persona.
Yeah.
Out in the stands, we see Marge talking to Lisa. Okay, I've got Furious D across the board, boxed with the 3 and the 8 and wheeled up and down.
Mom, I think you might be developing a gambling problem.
Hey, I'm watching you as comic book guy again. I wasn't able to inflect right on that short of a line, but it's comic book guy.
There's almost a Glavin in there, I think.
Glavin. He's wearing his shirt. Does it say worst episode ever at this point?
Yeah, I think so.
He's wearing a shirt that says worst episode ever, and he just comes in to basically be like, you've already done that plot too, nerd. We see Furious D is out and he's running a good race this time. He's in the mix. He's actually getting really aggressive. And Bart tells him, they're getting aggressive with him. And Bart's like, hey, don't let anybody push you around. Be as bad as you want to be. And Furious D is like starting to Dennis Rodman elbow with his neck essentially.
Doesn't he even pick up one jockey and throw him out of the ring?
I want to say that might be later. That might be in the next race. But there's a lot of great horse racing animation where Furious D is just like the most aggressive horse race that you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the scene we alluded to earlier, but Nelson is actually sitting with the other bullies and he's really impressed with Furious D. Oh, man, that horse don't take no guff from nobody.
Guff?
Shit. And yeah, before he can finish the line, shit, Jimbo and Kearney start just beating him up.
Poor Nelson.
This is where we cut into a montage. First of all, Homer is ecstatic at the finish line with Duncan's first victory. And we cut into a great montage set to the song Going the Distance by Cake, which they're able to get them into this because I want to say it was the writer. Let me double check real quick. I wrote that down. It was Tom Martin went to high school. He's one of the producers. Tom Martin went to high school with the trumpet player from Cake. And they were able to make it happen to get them in. And this was a great sequence. That was the perfect song for it. We see like the evolution of Furious D's like badassery. He starts to become more and more cocky. He's doing things like running, like flipping around backwards as he goes across the finish line, just little razzle dazzle. At one point, he actually just like intimidates the other horses and not even like leaving the gate at all.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with all of this, and I wrote this note down before this montage. He just won a race, and each time they're winning, Homer is infatuated with the trophies he's getting. But like with winning horse races, I thought you got money too.
That seems like the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, wouldn't the Simpsons be getting all this money right now? Because that was the whole purpose.
Well, that's just how they're paying for the horse costs. It's just balancing out.
But if you're winning multiple races, you're winning a lot of money.
You should be winning a lot of money at this point.
And then I also
should have monocle money.
Exactly. And I also wrote the note too, and the studding fees at this point, which was before the joke they're going to make.
Yeah.
I was like, they would be raking in so much money right now that like they never even touch on that. They just kind of gloss over it.
They don't. You're absolutely right. He's more impressed with his like Wayne Gretzky collection of trophies than he is with any cash that he's received.
Right. And I think one of the things I did enjoy about this episode was, we've talked about this in the past, I like it when like Homer or Bart are doing good and they're actually doing good and like they're getting something they want. So like one of the few redeeming parts about this episode is like they're actually doing well. And that's not always the case in The Simpsons. So that's the part that almost saves the episode a little bit.
See, I'm at the point still, I don't even think it needs to be saved. Like, I'm still very much enjoying this episode at this point. Yeah. Getting to revisit it. Now, I will say, this is where we are going to be testing our ability to suspend disbelief. So my wrestling fans out there, you're going to have a better time with this, because it is about to get down the like loony hole here a little bit. Homer is basking in all of his glory, carrying his giant trophy, being just ecstatic with his new life as a horse trainer, when a couple of jockeys pop out from a stable and invite Homer into the jockey's lounge for a beer, which Homer reveals that it's just another one of his many lifelong dreams. But when he walks into the stable, the jockeys have disappeared. He looks a little confused. And suddenly we see like the bottom half of a door in the background open, and a couple of hands grab Homer by the legs and pull him down a tunnel. And he literally starts going down a slide, if you will. It's almost like almost like the scene in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
And that's when Homer is very confused, but he's in a weird looking little like forest with a very familiar looking tree in the background. Hey, what is this place?
Welcome to the secret land of the jockeys.
Why are you talking like that?
These are our real voices. We only talk like this on your surface world.
Yeah, it's like they have like they're elves. They're very clearly
they're elves. Keebler elves.
Yeah, they're the tree that was familiar as the Keebler tree. They've got the pointy ears. They've just done this complete like left field thing where the jockeys are all the secret society of elves. And Homer is just like kind of overwhelmed by this. But he points out, you're respected athletes. You own car dealerships and marry beauty queens.
All a lie. What woman would marry us? We're freaks.
The commentary did point out they may have gone a little hard on the jockeys during all of
this.
They do a song here, and I know we usually sing the songs, but I honestly, I unless Richie wants to give this one to go, this song is unusual for The Simpsons. And I'm going to point that out as maybe another reason that people would have a negative against this one. This song isn't funny. It moves it's funny a little bit, but more than that, it moves the plot forward. Like it actually treats this act more like an actual musical in a way. And like this song actually furthers the story of this episode very quickly and essentially like explains that like this jockey underground world where they're all, secret elves, and that they basically intimidate Homer and telling him that he can't let his horse win. His horse must lose.
Yeah, it's no win, no show, no place. Just lose the stinking race.
What if I refuse to lose?
Well, eat your brain.
And that's when Homer realizes my horse must lose.
Yeah, not funny at all.
It really isn't. It really
more clever.
It does feel more like a like actual musical, in that like there's not like, again, it's like a plot moving device more than anything. Anyway, I just thought I
had nothing else to add to that because, like, it was just kind of a boring song.
So they do talk a little bit about it here. The writer of this was, at first kind of being jokingly defensive, but he stood by the fact he's like, hey, I'm proud of this script, and I think this is a really, really good time. And he did also point out that he's like, and for what it's worth, the elf thing wasn't actually my idea. That was an addition by Donick Cary, who has been around on The Simpsons for a long time at this point and been involved in a lot of really great episodes.
Well, did they point out that they were making fun of specifically jockeys and not short people?
No, but I feel like that's evident. I don't think that there's anything that would imply otherwise.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I just that whole scene definitely feels very off-putting.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of goes a couple of different directions too, because it's like kind of an Oompa Loompa parody, and it just kind of feels a little different than The Simpsons normally do. But it isn't a super long scene. We do see that Homer pledges to lose the next race, and then he's kicked back to the surface world, where I think he's like
just a dream.
But then one of the jockeys like pops out and is like, "No,
no dream, lose the race."
Yeah. So that night, Homer's trying to convince Bart to lose, but Bart is just not having it. And
I know I taught you winning was everything.
And besides, Duncan will live out his days as a stud if he wins.
But then Homer's like, well, okay, all right, I'll try to figure something out to win.
Yeah, because I think Homer
I'll
actually
deal with the murderous trolls when the time comes.
Yeah, Homer though implies that he too knows the life of being a sdd. It's like I can't remember his exact wording, but he's like, I know that life or something like that.
But I just like that Bart has no context of what happened, and Homer's like, I'll figure out a way to deal with those murderous trolls when the time comes. And Bart's like, what?
In like the last scene we saw him and Bart together, Homer was like gaggling and like giggling uncontrollably on the floor because of the Pearl thing. So he probably just does assume his father is drugged out at this point.
It's the mop, dude. That's what does it. It's a Goosebumps episode. I'm telling you.
The mop is behind it all.
It's fumigating the house and causing people to trip murderous trolls.
But somehow through this streak of winning, and that one time where Bart didn't win, but Duncan just like pushed the winner out of the way, and then the place was like, all right, I guess we'll give you the trophy. Yeah. But Duncan, or Furious D, I should say, and Bart find themselves at the Springfield Derby, which is the 5th and penultimate race in the Triple Crown. We see the race start off, and it is getting very real, very fast, because the other jockeys are now actually beating Bart with their whips, which I do think there's a really funny line by the announcers where he's like, in this bizarre twist, a horse is abusing a jockey for once, when Furious D like grabs one of those whips and starts beating the jockeys instead.
Bart.
Yeah,
that's right, you good little beast tamer, you.
He actually, I think is where he grabs one of the jockeys and just straight up throws him off the horse.
That's Mills, yeah.
And I love the announcer. He's like, might this be the start of a terrifying Planet of the Horses? In this announcer's opinion, almost certainly yes. And away I go. And he runs out of the booth, and we get the same car squealing effect that we got earlier in the episode when the like sleazy guy ran away from Wiggum.
I mean, that's the anti-Deep Blue Sea method right there, because, as you remember, everyone knows this. In Deep Blue Sea, when something horrifying is happening, like when you're in an underwater base and the glass is cracking, you don't just stand around waiting for the glass to crack and all the water and the sharks to get inside. You get the hell out of Dodge. It's exactly what this guy did. Smart dude. He's going to live in this planet of the horses.
He's going to be the sole survivor. Yeah.
We're touching a lot of sore subjects today on this podcast.
So the crowd is cheering. Homer has come around and is now back to cheering for Bart entirely. He yells out, "Do it for the normals!" Oh. And we see Bart does, in fact, win the race with Duncan. They accept their trophy in the winner's circle. And Homer goes on to give a nice little speech.
I can't stress enough how easy it was to win this prestigious race. Prestigious. And furthermore...
And that's when you see two jockeys actually start to aim a cannon and light the fuse at him, so he goes a little quicker.
Hollywood is leading our kids down a moral sweep. I gotta go! Sewer.
Yeah, Hollywood's leading our kids down a moral sewer is actually a reference. I'll say first, since we just mentioned a cannon, we don't want to leave the Chekhov's cannon lying around, but they do fire the cannon, but Homer, Bart, and Duncan all like ride out of the way before it hits. But that Hollywood is leading our kids down a moral sewer is actually a very specific reference to a speech given by Steve Allen, who had just recently not only called out TV, but he specifically called out The Simpsons as basically washing like the kids down a moral, or leading the kids down a moral sewer. And the messed up part about this, or I don't know, maybe messed up is too hard of a word, I guess, but Steve Allen had already been a guest on The Simpsons prior to making that speech.
Interesting.
And this was actually, along with seeing this episode for the first time, that moment was actually news to Matt Groening as well. And he was actually about it. He was like, "Oh man, that's such a bummer." And he was like, after he was on the show, he's like, and then Matt Groening went on to point out that he had just previously heard, like earlier that week, that Ray Bradbury, who is like a famous author, Fahrenheit 451 and others, but he had also recently knocked the show for being immoral. And Matt Groening was just like, it's kind of a letdown when these people I respect so much like hate us.
With Ray Bradbury though, he was kind of kooky anyway. So
I don't know much about him, if I'm being honest.
I from what I remember, it's been like 7th grade English class, but I thought he was a little kooky too.
That's fair. Totally fair. I like Fahrenheit 451. I thought that was a good book.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that there's now a like war, an army of jockeys on horseback are actually chasing down Duncan with Bart and Homer along. They have swords. They are taking this very seriously. Homer rides by Flanders, who offers to help, but Homer's like, I can't remember what he says.
Got it covered.
Got it covered, Flanders.
I want to know what Flanders was going to do there. I wrote that down as a note. Like, Flanders was ready to go, man. Like, I want to see what he would have done, because I think a lot of people think he would just like get the jockeys to stop so he could talk to him, but I think he had something else up his sleeves there.
Maybe a super soaker.
Maybe a t-shirt cannon.
Oh, dark.
Knock him right off the horse, man.
And that's actually what happens to these jockeys. Lisa actually shows up to save the day. She has her super soaker.
Lisa and Marge.
They start spraying the jockeys off their horses, which is funny in itself. Homer calls for a trash bag, and later you see a garbage truck pick up their like pile of wriggling trash bags. Which for some reason bothers me less than the horse being on the high dive earlier in the episode.
Then the jockeys from inside the trash bag are going, "Let us out. We'll give you gold."
But it's too late for that, because Bart and Duncan are already inside looking at stud farm prospects.
Oh.
But that's when we hear a ding dong.
Yes. When Queenie shows up.
Well, Marge opens the door.
Can you imagine her face on that one's body?
Yeah. That's when we hear the doorbell ring, and Marge is very surprised when she opens the door, and it's President Clinton.
Would Clinton be surprised when he realizes it's Marge, who he's met before in the past?
Oh, yeah, you again.
I'm still in that shed out back. We're doing terrible things in this episode, Miles.
Hey, man, I'm just here for the ride.
So is everybody else, apparently.
But Clinton shows up to say he's here to see Lisa.
Hi, I'm here to see Lisa Simpson.
And Lisa said, "You read my letter?"
Much of it, yeah. And those glow sticks were wrong. Very wrong. So I personally overturned the results of that band contest. Congratulations.
And he personally hands Lisa a winning plaque. Lisa's ecstatic. Thank you, Mr. President.
No, thank you, Lisa, for teaching kids everywhere a valuable lesson. If things don't go your way, just keep complaining until your dreams come true.
That's a pretty lousy lesson.
Hey, I'm a pretty lousy president.
And once again, in perfect unison on the commentary, all of them were like, no, he's not. Because at this point in time, we talked about too the idea that like it's easier to make fun of the presidents that you actually like, and by no means is Bill Clinton a saint or like a perfect person. His family's probably pretty evil, but like he was the blowjob president, and like by comparison nowadays, like he's nowhere on the radar of even the guy that followed him, who was in office while they were recording this commentary, which was George W. And then, of course, by today's standards, Bill Clinton is just way higher on the list because we know how dark of a timeline we took when we rolled that number 6.
Yeah. No comment.
When we hear Hail to the Chief play over the end of the closing credits, and we get one last line at the very end of the episode, you hear the Gracie shh, and then comic book guy comes back one last time.
Worst episode
ever. And that brings us to the end of the episode, the controversial episode, Saddlesore Galactica. Richie, what other thoughts do you have about this episode before we, or that book of yours, but what else do you want to talk about before we call it a day?
I remember watching this the first time when I was younger, thinking it was an absolutely terrible episode.
Interesting.
It did not do a lot for me. I did not like the jockey storyline. I felt like I was somebody that was like so into the Simpsons where I was like, they have already done this before. And it just,
you were a comic book guy?
Yeah, kind of. But not to that extreme because I wasn't, fully adolescent or adult yet where I could actually just go along with what people say and not have my own thoughts like children do all the time, and they're wonderful human beings. But yeah, I didn't
children do you know that are wonderful human beings? I've never met children.
I didn't really enjoy this episode as a kid. I feel like with all the stuff in our brains leading up to this one, I feel like it was a lot funnier than I remember it being. Like there are a lot. If you take out the jockey jokes, like I feel like it's actually a pretty decent episode. It's got a lot of dark moments, especially a lot of accidental foreshadowing of Maude possibly. But this one left me feeling a little conflicted, man. Like there's parts of it I very much enjoyed, but the jockey song and the Keebler Elf stuff just like sticks out in your mind so much that I think it's just like, it feels a little distasteful. And like, I usually, we're one of those people where we say it's all okay or none of it's okay. And I'm not saying it's not okay. I'm just saying it didn't feel as smart as a lot of their other jokes do in these situations.
Interesting. I've been almost dreading reviewing this one just because so many people do have such a strong opinion of it. And to me, while I don't think that the song is the weakest part of the episode, for sure. Yeah. And that's weird because usually Simpson songs are a highlight of the episode in a lot of cases. So like, I completely understand that aspect of it, but a couple of things I want to say. I understand that like the irony isn't lost on me about what I'm about to say as a podcast reviewer, but I am just getting more and more of the fact that like I feel like just maybe it's the internet or maybe I don't know, maybe it's just that we see so much of it, but nerds, quit getting your panties in a twist, man. Like just like enjoy shit. Like it's never worse anywhere than in wrestling, but like in all fandoms, including The Simpsons, unfortunately, there are so many cases where it's just like they provide so much joy for so much time, for decades in the case of The Simpsons, for decades in the case of wrestling. And is all of it the best? No. But is all of it enjoyable? Yeah. It is, honestly. Like, I'm still yet to come across an episode of The Simpsons where I'm like, well, that's 23 minutes of my life that I'm not getting back. No, like, every single one of them I'll watch again, over and over again. Like, again, I understand there are going to be episodes that people like more. There are going to be episodes that people like less. But the idea to me that there are so many people that have taken it upon themselves to make video essays, write actual essays, reviews, AV Club bullshit, just to shit on this episode and other episodes, down the road.
Did they even watch the episode to begin with, first of all?
Sometimes it makes you wonder, because, like, I'm sorry, but if, like, that 1 minute, 2 minute song of the entire episode ruined it all for you, I respect that, but, like, just watch next week's episode and shut the fuck up. Like, that's just kind of where I am. And, like, with wrestling, same. If you're, like, not enjoying one product, switch to a different product. There's a bunch of wrestling companies out there. You'll find something that you're into, or don't watch wrestling for a while and maybe you'll miss it. That happens too. But like, just like the idea that just people like get followings from shitting on things really drives me crazy in today's society.
Grinds his gears.
It does. It grinds my gears.
Here's
last point. I'm going to throw it back to you. Matt Groening, I told you, did not see this episode before the commentary. He gave this third act his stamp of approval and said he very much enjoyed the episode. So,
oh dear Lord. I want to say that, like, I think a little bit of the like tension and on certain moments of this episode might also be just a culture of like where we are in our society at this point too, where it kind of makes you feel watching older stuff. Like you talked about it earlier, like the gay jokes at the beginning of the episode in the commentary, like things change over time. Yeah. So it's okay to feel differently about it. So I'll leave you with this thought. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when jockeys are ruling the world, we will love this episode because we're making fun of our glorious leaders at that moment. So as our future glorious leaders on the planet of the jockeys, I got to go.
Well, on that note, as always, let me say, when I was ranting against nerds, I wasn't talking to you nerds that support this show, because I know you are all solid people who wouldn't bitch and moan online about things. So anyway, no, I really am grateful to everyone who tunes into us, regardless if you think our opinions are shit or not. It's cool that you tune in and share your thoughts with us. If you love this episode, cool. If you hate it, cool. Happy to talk about it. But just really happy to keep continuing on this journey through The Simpsons, the Golden Age, and beyond. So come back again and keep supporting us as we keep going through this very long list of episodes.
Yeah, we're about a third of the way through the series at this point. So we're catching up slowly but surely. But while we're catching up, you can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off all over social media. You can follow myself at TheWiz_Kid23. But most importantly, you can follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
And we will be back with a returning guest for our next episode. I'm very excited to have Mikey B back on the show, who is partially cut out of the last one it is on. But we are coming back in next week to review the episode Alone Again, Natra Diddly.
And in that episode, we don't take no guff from nobody.
Guff?
I mean shit.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.